Well, I was born in a small town. The society, Indian society, started seeing me as a Pandaram. You see, the word Pandaram comes from our mental models of Indian caste system. And Pandaram is somebody from a lower caste who is belittled. Similar to the word pariah, the Western world uses for meaning outcast, without even realizing that millions of people in India would find it disparaging. Pariah comes from the word parayar, a formerly untouchable caste, and that's where this meaning outcast comes from. So we live with these models in our minds, embedded in our lives, without even being aware of it, including this conference's theme, past, forward. So I want to engage you all in an exercise quickly. Please use your hands to gesture to me. How would you gesture past using your hands? Past, future, past, future. Now, South American Aymara tribe, if I were to ask them to do the same gestures, would do past, future. Past is something that is already unfolded, already seen, so you could see the past. Future is something unknown, unknowable, and you are walking backwards into the future. What a beautiful model. What a beautiful mental model. But for you to make that transition, to understand a different dimension of this two words, past and future, you have to cross borders in your mind to go to Aymara's mental model from your mental model. So I'm here to talk about the idea that our growth as individuals solely depends on our ability to constantly see these mental models, our ability to learn to give visas for our own minds to cross borders. The work that I do, that Shankar spoke about, allows me to bring young people from around the world, from very different socio-economic backgrounds, rich, poor, rural, urban, foreign, local, all into one group, for these young minds to explore each other and examine themselves for a period of time. A maid's daughter with an employer's son, all in one group, seeing each other's mental models. See, in 1800s, slaves and owners never went to school together. And in 1900s, for the most part, men and women never went to school together. And for 200 years, we continue talking about racial and gender disparity. And in this century, we don't let rich and poor kids to go to school together, and we segregate them. And for another 200 centuries, we will talk about other kind of disparities. So this work allows these kids who would never be in school together to come together and explore each other and explore their minds. And I'm just going to play a quick video, 2 minutes video, for you to see how this works in our programs.
I expected India to be full of sickness and starving people, I guess.
It is interesting how our prejudice can change our view on a country that much.
Seeing all the people, all the sects, all the places that I've never seen before, I saw that India has much more of a deeper level than what we see from outside the world.
I was afraid of being ignored by all the locals, but they're holding hands with us. They're like arm to arm to us. They're like brothers to us. So I was really surprised, actually.
The best part for me was to teach kids English or math, because I really like to bond with little kids.
I really don't like getting dirty with my hands or feet, and working in eco-construction really changed that.
When you're in a project and when you're working for the others as well, not only for you, you see that getting dirty is not that big of a deal.
I thought that I couldn't use a simple machine and you couldn't even hold it, but when I tried, I found out it wasn't so hard.
At first, I thought that we're only going to do some service projects here. I was really wrong about that, because we did many cultural activities.
We did some terracotta figures, and it was fun.
Kathakali show was so different for me. They used facial expressions rather than words.
The energy measurement activity was great. We wanted to measure ourselves' energies.
I always wanted to try wave surfing, and I never had before.
I got to sense how meditation changes our perception.
Our friends from the village, we spent a week with them.
They were in 11th grade, same as I do, but they're not that pressurized over these universities. Here, the children do not have that much money.
but it lives happily. That energy is something that we don't have in Turkey. I understand that.
So like these children in this video that you just saw, we have to learn to issue visas for our minds to cross borders in our mental models. So what I'm going to do next is tell you about 5 stories. And the way I'm going to do that is talk about the fact that you need a passport first before you start issuing visas, and the passport is your identity as a person. And the more we explore our identities in our hearts, then we develop this ability to start issuing more passports for our minds. So I'm going to tell you a few stories. Remember I told you the society started seeing me as a pandaram, but my parents started seeing me as a missile. See, missile, we Indian parents are missile launchers. We are great missile rocket launchers. When a child is born, we say, hey, go to a great school. By the age of 3, we start doing this missile launching activity. Great school by the age of 3. Now, we are not only missile launchers. We take the missiles back and we are great in reuse. We relaunch them. Oh, good school, now good grade. Now take the missile back, put it back again. And we say, good school, good grade, now great top university. Now take the missile back and we say, go to a great job, preferably abroad. And now you know why a lot of CEOs in this world come from India. And then, boom, that missile has hit the target. Now you take it back. Now there is marriage, then kids. Now this missile launching activity that we do in India is pretty much the mental model every child who has grown up in Indian culture knows about. But when I was young, unfortunately for my parents, I started reading poetry early on, and I read this Khalil Gibran poem, and it said, your children are not your children. Your children are like arrows, and you are like a bow. You have to bend and bend in the hands of God, and the God is going to put you in a direction, and you as a parent is just going to bend. I said, oh my God, try telling this to parents. Your children are not your children, Indian parents, okay? But as a child, it was very exhilarating for me. I said, wow, it's so liberating. I started seeing myself as an arrow instead of a missile in the hands of my parents. And then it's not just Indian parents. Let's be fair here. Every institution in this world tries to make a missile out of you. When I went to Harvard, they gave me this admission letter, and they said, you have to bring $100,000 to study in this institution. And I said, thank you very much. Generously, you have given me a kind admission, but I come from this small town in India. I don't have this $100,000. And they said, don't despair. Read this letter. And they showed me a letter, and this is a letter from a multinational bank which said, if you have an admission letter from Harvard, we will give you this $100,000 as loan. And they had a beautiful mental model of me as a debtor, a lifelong debtor, paying debt for them. And I said, wonderful, thank you very much. I need to go to this institution. I took the money, and then came the financial crisis of 2008. And the same bank's shares crashed from $1.40 to $1 per share. And I said, this is the time of changing my mental model of this bank, and I bought their shares and then paid off their debt by selling their own shares. The reason I'm telling you this is because your mental models rule you, and the more you explore yourself as a person, whether you are a missile or whether you are an arrow or whether you are a debtor or you're a shareholder, these are the passport pages of yourself, and the more you are grounded, then the more you're going to be issuing visas. Now, once you start being grounded, the next stage of it is being with people who are diametrically opposite to you, like these kids that we saw in this video, entirely different socioeconomic backgrounds, people who you are not ever been with, like the exercise that we did in Past and Forward, who can help you cross these borders in your mind. Like the man I met in Mali. I was crossing the border between Senegal and Mali by road with 5 other Malian people. In that part of the world, it's called collective taxi. All these people travel together in a taxi. 5 of them are Malians. I'm one person from India. And when the taxi crosses the border from Senegal to Mali, what you do is, if you're a Malian, you go to Mali Passport Control Office, and if you're an alien, there is a separate passport control office. And the Malians got their visas, the visas and passports all stamped in no time, and then the vehicle now pulls into the alien passport control office. And I'm sitting there thinking, my goodness, I'm going to make 5 of these people wait, and they're going to get really angry about me. So I'm running fast to the passport office, and there's an old man standing right outside that office. I look at him, and by now I've traveled around Western Africa by road, and I don't know French, and you then realize that your colonized English from India goes nowhere in Western Africa, which was a French colony. So I go to this man and say, show my passport. Because I've now gotten used to using body language. And he looked at me like this and said, "Is this how you ask in impeccable English? Don't you say good morning?" I said, "Sorry, sir, I've been traveling around for 2 months here, and nobody really seems to respond to my English, and I don't know French." And he said, "If you say good morning, everybody would respond." And I thought, my God, I've gotten into some problem here. This man walks from outside, goes in, and sits in the passport control officer's chair. He's the man who is supposed to issue me a visa, and he's the one who is going to stamp my passport. And I'm standing there, and I'm thinking, my Indian mental model is telling me, this should be a corrupt bureaucrat trying to get some graft out of me. But this man politely, after 5 minutes or so, looks at me, takes my passport, stamps it, and then tells me, never ever begin another conversation without a greeting. So it was not about graft. It was all about greeting. And you have to go deep into Mali to understand why that culture treats greeting as such an important part of its own mental models. You have to go deep in. And so I traveled with the visa that the man issued, but also I got issued a new visa for my mind. So you have to be with people who see things very, very differently. Or this man in Costa Rica, up north in a village. I'm traveling there, and I'm a mechanical engineer by training. And this man has passed out 8th grade, hasn't done a thing in mechanical engineering, but he was bored cutting grass. See, in Costa Rica, grass is 2 meters long. It's elephant grass. And he has to cut grass for 20 cows, and he's sitting there and cutting every day. And he says, "Hey, this is a boring job. I'm not going to do this every day." Goes to a market, buys a machine, and there is nothing called a grass chopping machine in this world. And the nearest machine that comes is a GE machine, which is really expensive, and he could buy 10 cows out of this machine. So he comes back, pulls a mechanic from his village, builds a machine of his own, and he's sitting there nicely. The machine is chopping, and he's sitting and watching and enjoying his life. And the neighbors are all saying, "Wow, this is fantastic. Get me some machine." So he now starts a new business. Every machine is $250 sitting in a northern Costa Rican village. He is just selling machines after machines, which are grass chopping machines. And I look at him. By now, Western mental models have all come into my mind, and I look at him and said, "Hey, this is fantastic. Did you patent your invention? Aren't people copying yours?" He looked at me, smiled, and said, "Hey, for about 60 villages here, everybody knows me. They trust me as the best guy to do these machines, and they think I can maintain theirs. But beyond that borders, and even here, a lot of people do their own." He said, "God bless them all." Isn't that a beautiful model? And for me to be there with him, it was a fascinating learning experience, a new visa for my mind. So let's not forget, the video that you saw when these children from very different socioeconomic backgrounds come together, there's this enormous opening in formative years. When a Delhi child comes to a rural Tamil Nadu and it's with a child which is much more like a maid's daughter, they think, the child thinks, "Oh, I don't go to school with this person." And then suddenly there is this foreign child in the same program befriending this Indian rural child, and the Delhi child says, so this child could be an equal of me, I could be a friend, and suddenly something opens up, and suddenly that person makes a new friend. Or a foreign student coming in India, we had this real story, that told us that her cookies in the hotel are being stolen every day. And we said, "Why?" And he said, "We leave it there and come back, housekeeping staff is really stealing this." So we called the housekeeping staff, and they said, "No, it's the opposite. The child keeps the patio door open and goes away, and birds come and take it, and we are trying to prevent the birds from taking our cookies away." And what a beautiful learning for the child to know that not everybody who is different from you is out there to steal you or hurt you or harm you. They may be actually saving your cookies for you. So these kind of learnings are just amazing how it opens up. And all these village kids that you saw, 6 of them are going to Turkey in this June, and they are going to be in a Turkish village with international students, with Turkish village students. And I have no doubts that they will have visas on their passports. Some of the international students will also have visas, credit cards for their financial transactions. I have no doubts that all these children will come back empowered with visas for their minds. So I wish you all a beautiful journey of new visas every day, a beautiful journey where your passport is grounded in your hearts, your identity, you understand that, and you continue to issue new visas for yourself every day. Thank you very much.